Tonia in the Sierra Nevada mountains. We're here at Eagle Lake, and we're here catching snakes. I have one here.
Awesome!
So, scientists have been studying these snakes for about 20 years, and we have different populations. This one comes from a population here around the lake, and then we have another type that comes from populations high up in the mountains over there. Can you see the mountains?
Yeah.
Those are the meadows, the meadow areas where the snakes live as well. And this is a type of snake that we get up in the meadows. Can you see the difference between them?
About where they were, guys.
Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. This one was in the meadows. This one was down by the water. What's different about them?
They're different colors, and one's bigger and one's smaller. Yeah.
The one in the grass, what's it got on it?
Green stripes.
Stripes. How does that help it?
So then it looks like the grass. Yeah.
Okay. And the other one's plain gray. Where does it live?
In the rocks.
In the rocks. How does that help us?
Camouflage.
Okay.
The other thing we know about these snakes, yep, you're right, it is camouflage, so they blend in with their habitats really well. And the other thing that we know is that these big guys that live here around the lake can have up to 14 babies, and these little guys, these smaller ones that live up in the meadows, only have about 6 babies. Why do you think that could be?
We're going to call on one at a time. Okay, Matt first.
They might get more food.
Somebody else. Yeah.
The meadow one is smaller, so then it can't have as many eggs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Probably is like, safer from predators and all that.
You guys are onto something. The environments are different, and there's a lot more food, it seems like, for these guys that live around the lake. There's a constant source of fish. So there is environmental differences. But the other thing is that when we bring these guys into the lab and we actually raise them in a controlled environment and give them all the same amount of food, they still have differences in how much they can reproduce. So what do you think that's caused by? Any ideas?
Your question? If you give them all the same amount of food, they still reproduce more. Why?
Because it's not the...
Matthew, go ahead.
Maybe one has adapted more than the others.
James, you had no idea?
Yeah.
Andrew?
Maybe because it's easier to, reproduce in the water. And,
Yeah.
I'm tired from holding the snakes.
Are you hearing these answers?
Yeah, I'm hearing them. Well,
Okay.
I think the first
Megan?
one is probably the closest one when you say that they've adapted in different ways. And so we think that there's a genetic difference between these two snakes. Even though they're the same species and they can breed together, there still is something genetically different about it. And that's one thing that we're trying to figure out, is how they're different, how their DNA is different from each other. So when we're out here and we're catching all these snakes, we then collect some data on them. So we make observations and we collect data. And Megan's going to demonstrate some of that, okay?
Ziploc baggie. We put the snake in there. Kind of fold it over, and then we have this scale here. It's a hanging scale. So you just hang the bag from the scale, and you can get a weight in grams of how much this snake weighs. So this snake weighs about 100 grams.
Now what do you think about the way she just did that? Do you think that snake actually weighs 100 grams? And how her technique in measuring it? What are some things that we need to think about?
The bag.
The bag, exactly. So we got to figure out how much that bag weighs, huh?
All right, so let's get a weight on the bag. Looks like the bag weighs about 11 grams.
So how much does the snake actually weigh?
89.
89.
We want to figure out what sex the snake is. So the way we do that is,
This is where you want.
you can see right here, you see that opening on the snake?
Let's do the magic.
Great, that's the cloaca. So what we do to figure out if it's a guy or a girl is we push, well, there's some poo for you, but we push the sides and or down the length of the body, and if hemipenes pop out, then it's a male, but since nothing popped out, it's a female. And there's some poo.
The thing that we do is we need to take a blood sample. So we take an alcohol pouch and we will sterilize the tail, and then we take a syringe with the little tiny needle and we will take a blood sample from the tail about right here. But I'm not going to do that now because we already got one blood sample from it. And so we put the blood in a tube like this. Can you take this blood sample, we put it in a centrifuge. And that's a machine that spins it really fast. So it separates out the red blood cells. Do you see the red blood cells in the bottom? From the plasma, which is the clear liquid above the red blood cells.
That's great. That's the technology.
So Megan takes this, the plasma, the clear part of the blood, and she looks for hormones like testosterone. You want to tell about that, Megan?
Yeah. Okay. If their testosterone levels are higher at this time of the year, it could signify that they're creating sperm and possibly mating at this time of the year, and then the females will then store that sperm and have their babies in the springtime.
How do the snakes lay eggs?
Oh, these guys actually give live birth. And I actually have a little baby right here.
Oh.
They're pretty cute, aren't they?
Yeah, they even come out of their mouths.
Very cuddly.
Cute and cuddly. So this little guy we actually caught right here on this beach, and so we're going to let him go right here. Do you want to see us do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, it's going to go. There it goes.
Okay, now I lost it. You see it?
When the snakes are just tiny babies, do they start out eating bugs at first and then gradually on mice and stuff?
That's an excellent question. What I think may happen is that out here around the lake, there's lots of little tiny fish, little babies that have just been born. And I think at least the fish around the snakes that live around the lake, I bet they eat those little tiny fish. But up in the mountain meadows, they don't have fish up there, so it may be that the baby snakes up there eat bugs and stuff, but that would be that's a hypothesis that still needs to be tested.
Well, see you next week, Ms. Schwartz. We'll see you on Thursday, Friday.
Next week?
So, goodbye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Have fun. I'm going to